are packed up and ready to hit the road very early tomorrow morning to Germany and a few other stops. I will bring you with us for our little flight-free travel adventure. Our first stop is to trade out our EV with my parents' petrol car. They will use this while we're gone. The range on it is lower and it just can't quite make it to Europe with infrastructure and traveling solo with kids. So we're going to switch it out. They will use it while we're gone here and we will take their petrol car, which will make it possible to do the trip. If I was planning from scratch and we didn't have someone working in another location that we had to get to, I would look at where we could go just with public transport and this EV and really celebrate what's hyperlocal. But we're planning this around where Jared is. So we're going to go trade cars, pack our bags into that car, get to bed and hit the road at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I hope you have fun following along on our journey. For the last 3 months, my husband has been working in Germany while we've been 500 miles away here in West Sussex. And it is finally time to drive over there and pick him up for the holidays. And we're going to make a couple of other fun stops on the journey. I have never done this drive solo with kids before, so I wanted to do most of the foreign driving in the light, which meant a really early start, but that's fine because I'm a morning person. We put our car onto the Eurotunnel shuttle. That way it takes about 35 minutes to get from England to France. What I didn't think about was you have to stay with your vehicle the whole time. So as the only adult, that meant no one could go to the bathroom. We just had to stay with the car. So we ate our breakfast, looked out the window where there isn't really that much to see until the end where you come up in France and you begin to see the French countryside. By the time we hit France, we had been on the road for about 3 hours, so we stopped for a quick bathroom trip and to get some croissants and then kept driving. Our route took us through France and Belgium and the Netherlands. And when you drive an English car to France, you are driving on the wrong side of the car for the road, which does take a bit of getting used to, but I've done it a decent amount before. But that is one of the reasons I wanted to do the foreign driving in the light. We kept things really simple and just pulled over to the side of the road in this little town in the Netherlands to eat our lunch. I brought all our food with us so we wouldn't be forced to stop for food if we didn't want to, and we tucked into some cold pizza and a lot of oranges, cranked up the music and had a little moment together by the side of the road. Once you're out of the UK and in the Schengen area, this is what the borders between countries look like. It is just a sign on the side of the road and you know you've entered into the next country. The kids did really well on the journey. We didn't do screens until the last couple of hours because I know it can just make them grumpy. So we did lots of verbal games, drawing and listening to the Yoto. We made it and Jared opened the door and handed me a gin and tonic. 12 hours? Exactly 12 hours from leave to arrive. We're here. With the kids' school holidays, we chose to arrive before Jared was actually finished with work. So he took some time off, we hiked, we saw his favorite spots in Kassel, the city that he's been teaching in, and then we bundled up for the famous Weihnachtsmarkt, the Christmas market in the evening, which was such a fun experience and I highly, highly recommend. At different times through history, these Christmas and December markets have looked different and they look different in different places, but we loved this Kassel experience. Tasting the different foods, experiencing the different rides, and the culture of Christmas in a different place. And here in Kassel, every night, Father Christmas comes out at 7 p.m. and flies through the sky.
In einigen wenigen Minuten wird's der
And after seeing Father Christmas, it was time to warm up with some Glühwein and hot chocolate. Glühwein is a spiced warm wine like English mulled wine, and all the drinks were served in these real glasses. You pay a €250 deposit and then you can either keep the cups or return them and get your deposit back. We did end up keeping two because it felt like such a wonderful keepsake, and we explored the rest of the market. We rode this winter luge, and then the kids really soaked up this department store snow because they had been desperate to see snow. It had been really snowy a couple of weeks before, and then there was no snow on the ground. But we're hoping on the next step of the trip, we get some snow. After a few days in Kassel, Jared was done teaching his lectures for the semester, and it was time to head off on a little adventure. We picked up some coffee beans from his favorite local shop and then finished up all the food that was in his apartment. He's been renting this one-bed apartment in Kassel, and so we finished up everything that was in the fridge to use as travel food. The next stop that we had planned was to travel about 300 miles south to the Bavaria region of Germany. I grew up coming to the Alps a lot, and my husband and kids had never been, so I was incredibly excited to show them this place I love so much.
Are we seeing snow?
This road is going on to Austria, so we are turning off to Füssen in the south of Germany. I was so excited to be back in the Alps and get these first views of the Neuschwanstein Castle, which is where we were heading. The fairy tale castle was built in the late 1800s, commissioned by King Ludwig II of Bavaria as his personal retreat. It's one of Germany's most iconic sites, and it even inspired Disney's Sleeping Beauty castle. Originally, we had planned to tour inside the Neuschwanstein Castle, but reading reviews, it seemed that with kids, it actually might be better just to see it from the outside, do the walk and get the view from the castle, and that for a lot of people, that is actually where the magic is. So that is what we chose to do. We parked in the town for about 10 euros, and then it was a 1.5 mile walk up the hill. It was an easy surface, but it was uphill. You can also take these carriages, but we decided not to do that and to do the walk. Once you get to the castle, you can walk on to the Marienbrück, which is a bridge behind the castle, and this is 10 out of 10 worth doing if you're able to make the walk. We didn't see any vehicles doing this part, and we did have to push the kids to get there, but it was so worth it because the view is 1,000 times better from this point. You get to look back and see the castle and look out over the area, and it was completely stunning. You did have to walk on a very thin and slightly bouncy bridge, which no one but me had a problem with, and I did not like it. It was too high for me, but we pushed through and made the walk back down into the town for chips and hot chocolate to refuel and warm up. After seeing the castle, we drove about 30 minutes to Eisenberg and stayed in this sweet little Airbnb before our next leg of the trip, which was to drive to Paris. We, for the most part, did supermarkets, buying food and making it ourselves wherever we were for calm and also for budget, but then we did a few restaurant stops where they made the most sense, and we are off for the next leg, 512 miles, Eisenberg, Germany to Paris, France, where we will be for Christmas Eve. I could not soak up enough of driving through these alpine roads and little towns. My kids put up with a lot of me saying, "Kids, look," and soak it up, but it really was so special. We stopped for some pastries and espresso because we were tired at this point and needed the fuel for the long drive. In borrowing my parents' car, I'm the only one that can drive because, fun fact, my husband cannot drive stick, which meant all the driving was on me. I'm fine with that. I just require a lot of espresso to make it happen.
So easy.
It's nearly 8 p.m. We're so many hours in to driving South Germany to Paris. It's taking longer than we thought. We made a coffee stop a couple of hours ago. We've still got a couple of hours to go. And finally, we started seeing the signs to Paris, and everyone was no longer tired and grumpy. Everyone got so excited, and at 10 p.m. we pulled up to our Airbnb. The place that it was in, you could see the Eiffel Tower from the apartment, which was the most incredible thing to wake up to on Christmas Eve. And so we woke up early and got straight out into the city to explore. We started off with a boulangerie and letting the kids pick whatever they wanted to, getting some coffee. And then we've both done Paris before and decided not to go up the Eiffel Tower, but to see the base of the Eiffel Tower and that area, and then instead to go up the Arc de Triomphe. It is a little bit cheaper, the queues are a little bit shorter, and the view is still absolutely incredible. Walking around this corner and seeing the Eiffel Tower was such a moment with the kids. We all loved seeing it from the ground, and no one felt we lost out by not going up it. And we then took about a 1.5-mile walk over the Seine and through the beautiful city to the Arc de Triomphe. The Arc de Triomphe has a star of roads that all go out from the monument, and you can look back and see the Eiffel Tower from the Arc de Triomphe, which is such a gorgeous way to see the city. You don't need to book ahead, but you do need to bring ID to go up the Arc de Triomphe. It was €13 for each of us, and the kids went up free. And we chose to walk the 284 steps from the ticket office all the way to the top. We had to wait for about 20 minutes to be able to go up, so it wasn't a long wait in the winter. How you doing, kids? As a side note, I do not do well being up in high places with my kids. It really scares me. So I appreciated these bars so much. They are the perfect way to feel completely safe, but really be able to see out, because no one's trying to jump up to try and see over a wall. And the view from the top of the Arc de Triomphe is absolutely incredible. Yeah, this is where we're going. We had chosen to walk as much as possible, and so until this point we had just walked from the apartment through the city all day and took the Paris metro back to the apartment in the evening. It was $2.10 for a single journey on the metro, and under fours traveled free. After we drove into Paris, we parked the car for free, which we were surprised we were able to do in that location. And from there, we just walked and used the metro, which kept it really simple.
Roads! That's roads. It's alright.
Okay, back at the Airbnb, it was time for a last bit of shopping before we headed to the Eurotunnel, and we hit up this bakery because my kids had described macarons to me, these two little things that stick together, Mom, and they're colourful, and I decided that it was Paris on Christmas Eve and it didn't matter how much they cost, so we brought 6 very expensive macarons back in the car with us and headed to the Eurotunnel. The Eurotunnel did have EV charging stations, and we noticed that especially around Calais and Paris, there were a lot of really well marked EV stations on the highway, so it would be totally feasible to do something like this in the EV as long as you stayed close to the Eurotunnel. Overall, we all adored this 6-day trip driving through a little slice of Europe, and we cannot wait to plan another trip, take the Eurotunnel again, and discover a different piece of Europe. It didn't feel like we were driving the whole time at all, even though we covered a lot of miles. We actually loved some of the perks of driving over flying, like just being able to toss everything in the car, which with kids made it really easy, and being able to alter our schedule and our route to work with how we were feeling. We got to see 3 very different locations, and each one was completely magical in its own way. Thanks for joining, and we look forward to bringing you along on another flight-free adventure sometime soon.